Yeah, man. So episode 7. So if anybody's just joining us, we've done 6 of these already, which is crazy to think how quickly all this goes. But that's also another reason why a person should do it, right? Is like, we had an idea. We thought, let's just start. We started that afternoon. And before you know it, you're 7 episodes in and you're starting to, tell the chronological story of how this whole extremely conscious man thing came into existence. And we got a fun topic today, man.
It is. It is. The true beginnings, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at this point, we were, if anybody hasn't watched those, go back and check out the first 6. They're on our YouTube channel. You can find them on our feeds as well on social. But we talked about how we first connected, just strolling the streets, and had some more engaging conversations. And then kind of tiptoed our way into becoming friends and actually, really opening up and having the deeper conversations. And then we started jumping into cold plunges and horse troughs and then a river and then turned that into a whole thing. And then you proposed to me. Proposed a weekend away.
Yep, that's true. I don't remember whether it was phone call, text, maybe a late night Teams call. I'm not sure. But I do remember saying, Trev, do you think you can manage to get away for a weekend? Ask your wife.
Yeah, that's right.
It started there.
And truth be told, this is something that I wanted to make sure that we addressed in this video. So Mike took the initiative to say, hey, man, you want to get away for a night and just go do some guy stuff? Let's go climb a mountain. Let's take the e-foils. Let's have some uninterrupted time. No kids around. No agenda. Let's just flow with it and see where it takes us. And how many times do we actually do that as guys? How many people take the time to do that?
Not without a case of beer, I think, right? Not without that layer of, but we're going to go do this. Here's our distraction of that we're going to go do, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the way that we had approached it is we knew we wanted to have some higher level chats. We had already connected on a couple pieces that we do both enjoy experiencing some more extreme things like hiking. And I had a great hike in mind that I wanted to do, and so I think it's very rare.
Yeah. I think about trips that I've organized with buddies in the past too, to kind of speak to what you're talking about. And we're going to Vegas for 3 days, and then it ends up being 3 days of 4 hours of sleep and pool parties and late nights smoking cigars at poker tables. I'm sure you've maybe had those experiences, or it's some other kind of big event that's planned, right? I've been involved in different trips where you're going to a NASCAR event. I haven't done that one actually, but I know buddies that have, or a golfing trip, or some type of an activity where typically, like you say, it's a big old drunk fest and you're just going to have a good time, which we're not shitting on, just to be clear here too. I enjoy those trips as much as the next guy, but at that point in my life, I knew that the next kind of outing or adventure that I would want to do didn't have to involve that. It could be something physical. It could be having good food with intention and a much more focused conversation. Because you and I at that point, we're already starting to talk about an event, but we didn't really have an idea of what it could possibly look like. And that conversation really kind of sparked when we were on top of that mountain, didn't it?
Absolutely. I think you had brought it up, or we might have casually talked about it in terms of we wanted to do that one day, right? And it was on the mountaintop. It literally, I have a favorite hike nearby here called Pincushion that I said, Trev, we got to go do this. And, we weren't even far into our day at that point, but we climbed a mountain, amazing 360 view. We're overlooking the Okanagan Valley. We settled, we did some breath work for a few minutes, and then we just kind of got into a bit of a deeper state. And, the words, there's got to be more guys out there craving this, came up. And it was at that point that I'm pretty sure it was up there on that mountaintop that you had said, well, why don't we do this in June?
Yeah, that was when it all started to become real, where we put a date around it that quite frankly, at the time seemed a bit crazy even too, because neither one of us had formally put on anything like this before. Like, you and I had both been involved in different things where we had to coordinate activities. You run, a sales team and a business where there's coordination of calendars and schedules, and this has to be there by this time. So it wasn't like it was completely new, but the idea of putting something on where we would call in 8 to 10 people to join us and then do it from the intention, like you say, that we would do it regardless if anybody even showed up. And that, I think, ultimately is what, kind of in a mysterious way led to those people coming to this as well. They felt the energy of what we were creating, and many of them signed up without even wanting to know the details, because quite frankly, we didn't really even have them. We were just making it up as we were going. I remember we were planning things at the last second even.
Yeah. I think it took the pressure off of us too, because we sat there for a moment and we said, okay, we have absolutely zero experience planning a retreat of any kind. Of course, we're both leaders in our own right in our professional careers, and we had a yearning for what we thought would be super cool to create. But saying that we would arrive there, even if anybody else didn't, gave us that opportunity to say, okay, what would we want? And as you mentioned, it did attract the right individuals, because when we put the call out, it was from such an authentic place. It wasn't from a place of, oh no, we need to, cover our money that we invested in this. It was just that, let's see who steps forward and wants to explore this stuff with us.
Yeah, I'll make sure to link up the video of us talking on the top of that mountain there when that eagle went flying in front of us as we were just starting that conversation too. It was pretty amazing, actually, and to look back and think about it. And we have it actually linked up right on the website, where we have the experience page on our site that speaks about what we got going on in Costa Rica here too, because it was the beginning of something that ultimately we were seeking, which was a higher level conversation, peak adventures. Because that was the other thing too, is that we both were desiring doing fun stuff that would push us outside of our comfort zones. And that can be as simple as climbing up to the top of a mountain and getting close to the edge of that and doing breath work. Like, that can be extreme in itself. I know it was for me. I remember setting up the camera even and kind of creeping over to the side of that and thinking, damn, we're a ways up here. But it quickly evolved into possibilities of us just starting to brainstorm. And that's what the next couple of days, or next 24 hours, ended up looking like. Was we went out on the e-foils and the water was still pretty chilly. And at that point, I still didn't really know how to stand up on that damn thing. So I spent most of my time in the water.
We need a highlight reel of that, please.
We can probably find something in there as well. But I remember sitting in that suite that we had too at the Summerland Hotel and just jamming about possibilities and looking up venues that we could have it at. And I know the place that we ended up picking really stood out to you too, just because of the remoteness and the ruggedness of it as well. And I want you to maybe speak about that, Mike, because we didn't pre-plan none of these lives are pre-planned. So whenever we're throwing questions at each other, it's like true authenticity, just so everybody knows. But Mike, you had mentioned very early on that you wanted those retreats to be very, and not just that one, but even this one that we have coming up, to be outside of the norm of what we think a retreat actually is, which is, posh and, catered service and a fancy restaurants and all of these things that we could very easily have incorporated. And it probably would have been a hell of a lot easier to organize even too, just logistically, distance from airports or from the city, that type of thing. But when we saw that one that was just outside the city and it was those rustic cabins on a lake, I know you right away were thinking, man, this just feels right. Why don't you speak to that?
Absolutely. I mean, and I think it's what we're doing with this next one, but I'll keep on track of that one. And of course, my immediate logical brain, wanted to look at some of the potential limitations we even had at that location, right? Remember, I tried to find aerial views. Do we have to walk the foils down to the water? All that stuff. But then we really let go of our expectations and continued to operate from a creative space and allowed the experience that we were going to create rule our planning, if you will, because even the number of beds in that place didn't really make sense to the amount of people we had in there. But
I was just thinking about that.
We could have. I know you got stuck on the couch first night. We had a very loud snorer in the loft that echoed out into the auditorium area. Kept
Nobody
Craig
slept
up.
the first night. Yeah, nobody slept the first night.
No, but it we chose to not let those factors rule what we were creating and instead focus on the experience. And I think that's what made the magic of it truly, and what created a brotherhood with 10 guys that really didn't know each other. We had a common denominator with them, but some didn't know you, some didn't know me, and the bulk didn't know each other. Yet it all came together, and I can say with confidence, that night by midnight, with the reflection questions that we had opened up the room to, and by leading ourselves with the vulnerability that we did, probably everybody had shed a tear, by midnight, the camera crew included, because of the way things opened up so organically, and everybody felt the heart pull to really want to lean in to the space that we had created so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll dig in more into the details of what we did on that retreat in particular, and how we've learned from some of those experiences too, and we're integrating that into this new experience. I think that's a good topic for us to tackle on the next one as well. Related to this one here, I wanted to also have us jam a little bit too on some of the wives that stepped up before we even put on that retreat. I still think about Brandy in particular, and how when she heard about this, because we had somebody that had referred Craig, who attended our first one. Craig is, of course, the CEO of a company called Versio, which is an incredible company that produces a whole line of functional mushrooms, and they're doing all kinds of other stuff too on the Versio lab side of things. But I remember that was something that really stood out to both of us when we heard that Brandy said, "Craig, you need to go to this thing."
Yes.
It was an eye opener for us to go, oh, wow, this wife, and many of these wives, really want their husbands to actually go out and experience these kind of adventures with other men, because of what who they'll become when they come back into their lives. And I think that was very evident in that case as well.
In what they're going to bring home afterwards. Right. It's Greg had shared with us. He's like, Brandy pretty much packed my bags when she caught wind of this.
Get out of here.
You are going to this, and it's incredible, because we've seen that trend in our upcoming retreat. But as men, when this space arises and these conversations arrive, most are not quick to jump at it. When we have these challenges in our lives, we try to deal with them ourselves, and never mind the challenges. Take that out of the picture. Let's just say we're trying to elevate and try to get to a next level. We try to look for the answers ourselves. I'm going to read this book. I'm going to jump in this program. I'm going to do this. When the reality is, it's in reflection. It's in inner work. It's in looking in here that we have all these answers. We just need the willingness to explore and dive in. And as men, generally we have our raw egos, and we're money makers and providers, and we can move, physical boulders. But when it comes to speaking openly and vulnerably of our challenges, whether they're in business or our family, we tend to run from them, or we tend to think we can deal with it ourselves. And so for the wives that see the potential in the change for their partners, it's a no-brainer for them. Mm-hmm. And even when there's a cost attached to that, or there's a family sacrifice, it's a bigger picture piece to say, you're coming home a different person, and that doesn't happen in a weekend, by the way. And this is a part of what we've created now, and the future of why we created that, because we can only create so much power in a long weekend. But eventually, if we're not doing the integration work afterwards or before, it's going to fade. It is going to fade. Mm-hmm. So, that's how our evolution has happened as well.
Yeah, it really is the spark that just creates that lightning bolt of energy to kind of jump back into your life and And then, of course, and again, we're kind of already talking about how that retreat went, but then all of a sudden there's a reality that kicks in when everybody hops back in their vehicles and they drive home and they realize that, nothing in their outer world has changed. They still have their job or their business, their families, their finances, all of these things that tug at us in life. But there's a part of them that shifts and changes in the way that they see all of that and how they approach navigating it and how they're able to find the calm within amongst the storm. In fact, it was Craig that had that quote when I interviewed him on my podcast, talking about being able to meditate on a rocket ship. And I think anybody that thinks about that visualization understands what we're talking about. It's like, go set yourself in the middle of the storm and be the calm. This is who we all aspire to be, because when we can do that, we actually hold the power for everybody around us too. Our wives, girlfriends, our kids, our family. And it has nothing to do with what we say or even what we do. It's just a presence. It's an energy. It's just an elevated state of consciousness where people look at you and say, you've changed. What are you doing? Like, what's the secret here? And obviously the answer is not one thing in particular, but these types of weekends, starting with the bro weekend, our first date, they spark that kind of change. And that was our underlying desire for going and doing that, was just go have some fun. Let's see what we can co-create in this dedicated space where we don't have all these distractions pulling at us and pushing us and everything in between.
Yeah, and it was incredible to see the mix of individuals that were there and the results at the end too, because they all spoke to it and they all spoke to definitely some profound changes. But also, Craig aside, we had other co-founders and CEOs there that are used to being attached to their phone 24/7 and really did become present, really did lean into the process. And on the tail end of the weekend, they could truly say that they had committed to it and were feeling that change. So it's amazing to see what was created in that short time, never mind the brotherhood and the weeks and weeks of chats that followed. It was pretty special.
Absolutely. And maybe what I'll do is I will link up that compilation that we have of all the guys sharing about coming into that experience and then leaving too, because it feels like this episode, we kind of touched on both of those anyways. So, which is cool. Like, this is exactly how it's supposed to be. And we can speak to a different subject on the next time, or maybe start from that point and see where it takes us. But yeah, I think for me, I was looking forward to talking about this one, because the people that are listening to this, a lot of them aren't necessarily reaching out. They're just consuming. But there is a handful of people that are dropping into my inbox now, and in some cases even leaving public comments saying, man, this is really inspiring hearing what you guys did here. And I think Mike and I are both here to say, yeah, and it wasn't without discomfort or lack of pain or just an obvious thought of like, of course we should do this. Those moments came, and then immediately we went, but how? Is this crazy? Like, what do we... All of that was still coming up, but we just kept moving. And as we did this together and then surrounded ourselves with other people that said, yeah, I'm in too, it was like a snowball effect. It just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. And here we are now, where we have Costa Rica coming up in April 24th to 28th. And yeah, it's just going to be next level. Everything learned from the first one, integrated into this next experience.
Oh, it's light years deeper, and for many reasons. But I love that you brought that up about the discomfort, because it's just something that, people think that when they start to do the work, it gets easier. No, it gets harder, because you disrupt every single person around you when you decide to step forward and do this work. Whether that's your wife, your kids, your best friends that you've had for many years. It's people generally don't like change and they don't welcome it. And so it can be very challenging to stand in that space as you start to move forward and then get questioned, right? And question yourself.
Totally.
We have that inner voice, whether you call it the ego, part X. I've heard so many different verbiages uses for that over the years now. But that's going to tell us to stay comfortable. So know that is the most challenging time, is changing, because everything comes to the surface. Everything in your being wants you to stay comfortable.
Yes, it does. And on that note, let's end it with this, because I'm grateful for the fact that you made the first move and invited me on that weekend. And what I want to say to anybody that's watching this, where this may be resonating, is we will reach out to you if you just show any kind of indication that you're here and you're listening, which can be as simple as a like on these videos, on the YouTube video, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, whatever, or even go as far as sending us a message. Mm-hmm. If you guys can make that move, we will engage with you to let you know what is possible on the other side of this, because we've been exactly where you are right now, where I could imagine that many of the people that are watching this and resonating, their lives aren't that bad. In fact, there's a lot of really amazing things. They're blessed beyond measure, as we like to say. But they know that something's missing. They're looking for that extra spark, something to inspire them to level up to that next phase of life that is available to them when they actually take full responsibility and ownership, and then lean into it and do this with other people. It's really incredible. And it does take bravery, though, to just say, this is of interest to me, and just know that we'll meet you exactly where you are. Yeah. But you do have to make the first move, because otherwise we don't even know that you're there. And just know that we're going to keep showing up, though, and give you every opportunity to show up.
I love that. And it's it gives a broad spectrum. We have guys that have, been doing the work for years in here. And then we have guys that this is brand new to, as Trev said, and just teetering on the sidelines, watching and interested, but not quite ready to step forward. So reach out. We're here to support it all. We're on a mission to truly bring our gifts to the world and serve as many as we can. And this retreat is only one avenue of that.
Absolutely. So stay tuned for the next one. We'll see you in a couple of days. And thanks for watching. Appreciate you being here. See you, brother.
Cheers.
I was just telling a story, and I thought we should record this as well. But yeah, there's the hawk right there. Yeah. So I recorded a podcast episode yesterday talking about why we're moving to Costa Rica, and there was a lot of pieces of it that were just, it's the education, and it's the weather, and it's the surfing, and it's all these things. But I stepped it back to the foundation of reading a book in like 2007, Unlikely Destinations, the Lonely Planet book. It was like an autobiography of the couple that created the little travel guides. And in the video that I recorded yesterday, I just made a point to look right at the camera and say, you're one decision away right now from that life. Just like I was, because it's easy to look at somebody and go, well, it's easy for you, it was 15 years ago, but
you're so lucky.
I'm so lucky. But the biggest thing I wanted to get across to people was, 15 years ago, we didn't have access to this. We didn't have cameras like this where you could be up on top of a mountain with this audio and video quality, sharing what's going on in your life, building community, surrounding yourself with other people that have big visions and are consciously creating everything in their life. There's no barriers anymore. You can choose to look at all the negative and the bad side of social media and the politics and everything else, or you can just go, what an incredible time to be alive.
Lean in and create that vision and go for it.
And it doesn't need to be Costa Rica. It could be, we were talking before, there's a pretty amazing life just living on the lake here, living on the lake in Ontario, living on the lake in Saskatchewan.
It's all everybody's...
Whatever it is for you.
Happy place is different. Yeah, it doesn't matter where you are. It's the land you connect with, the people you connect with, and what you want to bring.
Yeah. But I think of even you and even our journey on this too. There's a lot of things where you're like, I wonder how that works. I'm curious about that. And you have to literally just have the bravery to go, I don't even know the right question to ask, and then just say something out loud and have somebody go, yeah, I remember when I was there. For some people it was a month ago, others it was 10 years.
Yeah.
It's find your guides.
Well, and you have to be open to it. You have to be open and willing to receive, right? And that's, for a lot of people, that's a roadblock, right? Is they're egos tell them they can figure it out, or quite the opposite, that it's too hard and there's too many variables. And constantly we run into those barriers and questions, and it will be easy to accept them.
Yep. And I don't know about you, we haven't even talked about this yet, but I know we're gonna do some creating ourselves of a retreat, some type of an experience where we can invite people. And it actually just hit me right now that that's the purpose of it, really. It's for anybody that says, I don't even know where to start, and well, that cold plunging shit sounds pretty extreme, and maybe it's the thing that unlocks something for you where you don't even know what it is or the question that you need to be asking, but you just know something's missing.
Yeah.
Or you're feeling called to be more. That's what it feels like it would be.
Yeah.
As we co-create on a mountaintop.
Yeah, it absolutely is, right? It's so many people. We go through the motions of life, and myself included. I was there, right? Where we're kind of like, okay, well, I've climbed the ladder, or I've done the success thing, or I've hit the sales numbers, or I've bought the house, or I've got the wife, I've got the kids. We have all these societal definitions of success and what makes people happy, right? And at the end of the day, we're all different, and that's in the box. Go to a box store and buy a happy life. There you go, right? But
corporate America / world is trying to sell it to you all the time.
Yeah,
this will make you happy. That'll make you happy. This will make you happy.
Put in your 35 years and you'll retire comfortably. I don't want to be comfortable. And I know there's a lot of other people in this world that are the same, that don't want to be comfortable and are looking for more and are looking to live, truly live, and find new ways to be fulfilled. And we're on a mission to find our tribe and rise up as many others as we can along with us. And there's magic in that, right? And all starts by just opening up yourself to the universe and saying that's what you're looking for. And the details work themselves out.
And I was saying this to my wife Sharmila last night, that just like I said a moment ago, these tools we have access to, the connection we can create virtually, remotely, all that kind of stuff, incredible if you choose to see it that way. But you cannot replace the impact and the connection that comes from being in person. And because she joked around, like, she's like, oh, you're off to your bromance date tomorrow. She's like, you guys should go to a top of a mountain and declare your connection. and I was like, yeah, you know what? There's something to be said, though, about actually having somebody that you can do a hike like this, or that you can plan something and have other people show up, like a group of 5, 10, 15, 20 people, and be in their presence and have them see you, hear you, just allow you to
commit to that present time and leaning in together. Yeah.
You can't do it. It's different online. It's different. It's still impactful, but it's different. This in-person experience.
There's energy. There's energy that is in virtual as well, but when it's in person, it's it's different.
Yeah. I'm glad that I hit the record button on this, because I don't know exactly what it is we'll even create, but this will be everybody's witness to where it starts, which is
speaking it out into
speaking it out and feeling it right here. Look at that view. And look at that shirt. Vibrational visionary. All right, should we go get in that water?
Yep, there's some new vibrations to be sent out here.
Woo! E-foiling, here we come. When Mike and I first sat down to really just brainstorm the whole thing, we just thought, what would be something that we would want to go do, regardless if anybody even showed up. And that's what we created here. It was just, we've got a lot of fun things to do. We've got a lot of challenging things to do. We called it the Extremely Conscious Retreat for a reason. And it's just going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait for everybody to experience it.
So the goal of the retreat is to bring together some truly conscious men. And of course, everybody's coming for a different reason. Everybody's coming from a different walk of life.
but it's really to get men to lean in. And by that I mean to really commit to want to elevate themselves.
I take 2 opportunities a year to really reflect in their when I think everybody does, which is kind of that December end of year, your resolutions, really time to set up your year. And then my birthday is at the end of the month, and this one's a big one. It's I turn 40 on June 28th this year.
I've never been, first of all, on a men's retreat, so this was a first for me.
I wasn't expecting much. I was keeping my mind open to new experiences. And so with me, I typically work all the time. So having an opportunity to come out with the boys here and just have fun and be open to whatever they're up to, that's all I look forward to.
My intent this weekend is to completely surrender to the process. So I don't have expectations. Deliberately, I don't have expectations. I'm going with the flow and following my impulses.
You know, a men's retreat is a very special thing. I like the term false masculinity. False masculinity is very toxic in our culture, and I feel like getting a bunch of like-minded people around the same room together this weekend, exchanging ideas, being fearless, letting down our bullshit and just being who we are is going to create something really amazing.
We have 10 committed men to want to change themselves this weekend. So it's pretty amazing, pretty special. We're just, we've been separated from each other for so long in terms of humanness over the last couple years that the community, just being in the same room and feeling that energy alone is special enough.
It was very enlightening to see that so many other men in particular have come together to share their experiences and some of the things that they're looking to work on, and just the openness to complete strangers. I've never met anyone here prior to this experience, and so for me it was very enlightening to know that there are others out there seeking to find that type of acceptance and spreading of good energy, and it's okay to be vulnerable, and everybody here has been vulnerable, so it's been great.
The highlight would be 2-part. I mean, it was very special to go to Myra Canyon, and of course, we built in an exercise there where we were releasing our rocks, so ourselves included, right? Where we looked at our family, we looked at our finances, our business lives, our friendships and our relationships, and where we could maybe improve in those areas, and where we were carrying baggage as well, right? And so we filled our bags with rocks in those personal areas in our life, and then we released them together as brothers on the bridge and supporting one another and talked through that. So that was really special. But coming back, to base camp here, it was really, really cool to get out on the e-foils as well. And we find any activity like that, of course, you're challenging yourself, it's new, but we all played. We played like kids. We laughed. We laughed at each other, we laughed at ourselves, and we cheered each other on, and that's really unique to be adults and see people that are professionals and take themselves very seriously on a day-to-day to really ground themselves and just have some fun. So that to me was my true highlight, because we've done a lot of emotional things and gone deep, but to see everybody come to life in that atmosphere was really, really neat.
Having everybody in the water doing the e-foiling, I remember what it was like the first couple of times that I did it, and today was my 4th time, and I actually felt like I had some legs underneath me. Like it was really fun, and I was able to put myself in the position that a lot of these guys were in, because they were just trying it for the first time. So being the coach that Mike and Taylor were to me, I was able to do that for these guys. That was challenging, but it was really fulfilling too, though, because you could see the uncertainty and then the excitement when they started to get it. Not to say that everybody got it right away, but as they start to get it, it's a lot of fun to see that.
Yeah, this weekend's been a real eye-opener for me. Never really been able to talk openly with people, and I still haven't, but it's a start. It's a big step for me. So
Yeah, I think the weekend was it was very special for me. gave me an opportunity to find some individuals that are going through similar things in life and are willing to be open about how we talk about it, how we deal with it, and even tools and different ways and methods in which we can actually put in our backpack to carry on and move forward from here with a higher sense of purpose and how to deal and manage those feelings and instances where you may be in overwhelm. So for me, it was exactly what I needed, and I'm extremely thankful for the experience.
I would say a more centered version of me is going home today. Really excited to go back and see my family. The retreat meant a great deal for me because, you know, as an entrepreneur, somebody who supports other people and has a family, taking that time to just be playful and just hang out with guys in this beautiful setting, it's rejuvenating. It meant rejuvenation, an opportunity to rejuvenate my whole nervous system and reconnect with a high-level conversation, and it means healing to me.
I'm a really active person and I play a lot of sports, but a lot of the men here on this retreat would probably tell you that the work we did, the inner work and the work we did as a group, is actually harder work than lifting heavy rocks or going in e-foil or staying in an ice bath. So, you know, this retreat really taught us the balance of that, but that's that physical, mental and spiritual balance. So yeah, I think that's really important for us, and to carry forward in our lives, in our day-to-day life, I think it's really important to live that way as well. You know, have a morning routine that is physical and spiritual as well.
It's been a while since I've been able to share in a collective male environment. I've just haven't done it for years for I think a few reasons. So yeah, it was an amazing couple days.
This weekend at the Extremely Conscious Retreat, it was quite an eye-opener. It was an amazing event. Today there was actually one part that actually it helped me evolve some of the questions I may have had to be asking to help myself grow. But that's always been one of the things I wanted to do, is to grow as a person.
Today I had an opportunity. I did something that I didn't think I could do, which was to dunk myself into a bucket of ice water for 5 minutes. And the first 30 seconds I wanted to quit, but what I discovered about myself was I can do hard things. I can override that voice in my head and find safety even in very difficult situations. And that was probably the most powerful and profound experience to have. And when it was done, I was like, are you kidding? I could go another 5 minutes, and I didn't realize how resilient that I am. And that was a really great, powerful exercise we did today.
It actually felt like there was like a big weight lifted off my chest being in that cold plunge. And I've done it before, and I didn't last. I was up to here for like 2 minutes, and I was screaming it out. But over there, I was watching everybody else, and it didn't even faze me. Like this day, I figured I could stay for another 5 minutes.
You know, coming in here with my business, that's truly what I'm hoping to inspire by telling my story and sharing my emotions and rawness with the audience of whoever that is. And if it touches one person, then I think that's enough for me. And I think that's the meaningful change. And aversio means change in Latin, and that's what it's all about for us and what we do. And pairing that with this experience, it just brought it to the next level for me. So really excited to hopefully see more individuals, and especially men, feel comfortable enough to share their emotion the way that we all did this weekend, because I think it'll create a better society overall, and it'll start changing the generations to follow in terms of feeling comfortable with that, to start sharing at a younger age, so that it doesn't maybe carry on so late in life before you experience that.
Coming into this, I didn't do much research into it, right? So I was like, oh yeah, it's just gonna kind of be a boys trip, a guys trip, you know. And then as you get here, hearing everyone's stories and what they've gone through in life, it really makes you want to open up as well, which is a huge thing. I dug deep. Things that I don't really think about and I push down, you know, and I've been opened up to that. People that you've only met 2 days ago, you know, most people you're still kind of figuring them out, which I still am, but like the connection that you build from just the 2 days and just getting that deep with everyone is just phenomenal.
Our purpose is expansion, and it matters to me to let go of those old versions because those old identities we were born into unconsciously without even knowing. And if we don't consciously look at that old version and choose a different version of who we're becoming, we'll repeat similar patterns, thought processes, and outcomes in our lives. So it's a conscious kind of like stripping away of the shell into a new version. A lobster does it every year. You know, the lobster, they molt into a new version, and I think as humans we are called to do the same if we want to expand. Otherwise we go in a downward spiral. So evolution is really important to humans.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody here other than I did have I had a relationship with Mike, so one of the 11 people here, and yeah, so I didn't know anybody else, and it just made it that much, you know, better in so many ways. You weren't, you know, you were talking to everybody at a deep level. You had one-on-one conversations with everybody in you know, the entire retreats.
Right now, we just finished it up with a few more words and, you know, handshakes and hugs, and we're all on our way. So I know from this event, I've got 11 more friends, and we'll be talking, and maybe even have businesses together or whatever. But it's a whole new journey that began this weekend up here in Kelowna.
Yeah, really like the vulnerability that everybody shared with each other, like really freely and very quick right off the bat. Some people weren't ready and didn't talk and still want to go on their own way, and they want to think about all these questions and that, but you could tell them too. They were like, wow, it's incredible hearing you guys, and that you guys could express that pain with a bunch of strangers, really, like people that you've never even met in your whole life. Everybody was so supportive and really fed off that willingness to give in and not carry those burdens alone.
People arrived with titles, you know, with their roles of who they are in their workplace. But at the end of the day, when we sat down in this room and the one downstairs and every activity that we did, we're only human. We're humans. Those titles don't matter here in this space. We're all facing a human experience together. And so we face the challenges, we face the hurt, we face the wins, but that was a big part of it. Is, you know, there's no shielding yourself with whom you are here in this space. You know, we're arriving the real, the raw, the energy to work on ourselves as individuals.
I think the weekend went exactly how I envisioned it to go, and so much more. You can always kind of visualize, and I know the two of us have even meditated on this to see it before it even happens, but then when you actually see it happen, it's pretty magical. So it's been a special weekend.
I'm definitely leaving on Sunday as a different person than I arrived on Friday, and that was my intention. I'm leaving here following my own authentic self on a better path than before. I think I was missing a little bit of my authenticity with people, and I've also come to a new understanding with some people in my life, in my past, able to understand and empathize with them and be able to let go of some issues or feelings towards those people and create a space in my mind, a clearing, so to speak, to be able to evolve and focus on the things that I want to do in life. You know, being kind, loving and caring and making the world a better place.
Yeah, to those guys out there that you know, that have always kind of second guessed to coming to something like this, if you're you know, if you're questioning it for any reason, I just say, like, do like me and say hell yes. Like, it's an amazing opportunity, and everybody fits. You know, it's such a safe space, and you know, the mentality of the two, you know, dudes that put it together is exactly what you're looking for.
Being accountable to yourself, to the loved ones that you surround yourself with, and to even strangers that you may never meet again, but if you can create somebody to think twice about what they're doing or how they're doing it, that's the extreme consciousness that I'm wanting to create in my life and for the people around me. So I saw that, you know, by everyone here this weekend, and it just further reiterates that I think we're on the right path here with how this is being done. And, you know, Trevor and Mike did a great job of putting this together.
Anybody who's feeling stuck, anybody who's feeling like they're ready to level themselves up and let go of an old version would really benefit from a retreat, from this retreat, to come and get real, get uncomfortable, and see yourself in other people. In the beginning, it's kind of like there's this lack of safety. Who are these guys? And then by the end of it, after going through some difficult challenges and shares with one another, we all have this deep sense of brotherhood, deep sense of safety amongst each other and within ourselves. So it's highly recommended to anybody who's ready to take themselves up to the next level.
It wouldn't have been the same event if it wasn't for every single guy that was here too. And I know we had a broad spectrum as far as different ages. Like, I think the age difference was around like a 30-year gap type thing from oldest to youngest, which was incredible because you have a perspective from somebody that, you know, if you think about yourself in that position, it's like, man, if I would have been doing this work when I was 26.
Totally.
Whew.
Yeah.
And then you think about when you're at 56 though, and you're still doing the work, and you're able to look at that 26-year-old and be of service and support them and guide them, and then also feel like you can actually say out loud what you feel, right? That it's not, as we get older, we're supposed to know everything. Like, of course we don't. This is the journey. And yeah, it's such an incredible thing when you can get people into a space where, like you just said, all it takes is like one person to just go a little deeper.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the stories start coming out, and we all heal a little bit and become better versions of ourselves in those moments.
Well, I'm so glad I came. I was hesitant, but it ended up being what could be life-changing for me.